but we never know. But we also know if you don't take the time to hear what other people have to say, there's an opposite effect. You've turned them away, you turned them off, you said you don't count, I don't care about you, when you can make a difference and care about you. I think it makes a world of difference. So there's lots of stories in the book about that, blended with some of the basic tenets of the 5 maxims and what it is to extend a hand, and extend that hand sometimes by just listening to somebody and making a difference in their life by allowing them to have their life count.
I actually really appreciate him using that story. In 2011, I presented at the BDI conference, and I talked about the importance of integrating bystander intervention into your workplace, into the schools. And I said, one of the hard parts about securing funding for bystander intervention or any prevention effort is you don't get any data about how many crimes you've actually prevented, right? You can displace crime, and many of you work in prevention work, whether it's law enforcement or not. I don't want to sound law enforcement-y. Let me be a campus teacher right now, because I teach some classes too. Take me out of that world. But you don't know how often your kind word could prevent that suicide or turn that person, just plant that seed and make them change their decision. And that was one of the reasons that this model grabbed me back in 2010, 2011. I'm like, this is the way to do this. We know that we're doing good work here. We know that this is the better way of operating. And I look at it, I'm in my 30s now, believe it or not, and I work with 18 to 22-year-olds every single day. So last night, all the music that was playing, I recognized it. All the clothes that people are wearing, I get it. Generation text, right? And Guy Rossi said it yesterday. Said the problem with this generation, the #1 killer for your personal situational awareness and your personal safety is the technology in front of you. I don't even have my phone on me right now. I feel a little lost, a little anxious, right? That's they say that anxiety is a product of the technology generation that we're a part of, and it's true. But in the book, it's one of the things I talk about a lot. We see it all the time on campus. What are they doing? Not only is it earbuds in, it's full-fledged, the headphones on, right? Like the Dre Beats style. They're looking down, they're texting, they're yip-yapping, they're Facebooking, they're Instagramming. Every meal is now a picture and something to enjoy. I think that's a problem. And when we talk about it, and it was something that really interested me, make no mistake about it, this book is written for high school kids. If you read it, you know it's a simple read. It is a simple read. It's geared towards an 18-year-old, 17-year-old, your son, your daughter that you love before they get there. They approached me and I said, after 10 years, what would you want your kid to know? Well, that meant I couldn't be Lieutenant Jill. I couldn't be VDI instructor Jill. I had to be like a parent. And I can't even keep a plant alive, okay? You have to understand. Feeding my dog on time is kind of difficult for me. So you have to understand that to write this and distill it into something they could use, it was a challenge, but it needed to be done. And I talk about it a lot. The first and why they're going to enjoy it, they can read it in under 2 hours, easy. The first few chapters talks about the skills that a lot of us know in law enforcement that we take for granted, probably, and civilian sector doesn't think about. Question number 1, you can say, how many exits are in this room? So you look around, what's our generic answer? What does everyone say? How many exits are here? What, someone be brave, help me out here. You're saying 5, right? 4 or 5, that's your natural answer. No one's thinking about the ceiling. Could you get through the floor? Could you throw a chair through the wall? You can say, how many cameras are in this room? All right, security here is amazing. How many cameras are in this room? And you're going to go, mostly, remember, non-DL. 1, 2, maybe none, 0. You got that one. And then you go, you have a smartphone in your pocket, right? And I'm not tricking anyone here. I get that. But you take that to a room. I had a room of 800 college students this semester. And they all were like, oh, man. Like, that's true. Now, what can you use that for to help prevent crime on this campus? And I'm not talking about just sexual assaults. I'm talking about thefts. I'm talking about there's that car crash down the road. Can you call it in? Is indirect intervention. Can you call it? I will tell you, and I'll share a story, and then I'll defer to you. But I trained a group of students back in August First week ever on college campus, they're mostly inner city kids. They were on a very specific scholarship to be there. And I had to go talk to them about campus safety and what they could do to make our campus safer. And I just did our bystander program, which I'll talk a little bit later, presenting with Joel Ashley at 9. I said, one of the strategies you can use is use your cell phone, use technology. If people know they're being monitored, they're going to change their behavior. That's very simple science, that's very simple stuff. Okay. And so how hard would it be if you saw a suspicious vehicle to take a picture of it? Talk about it, call it in. Don't just say that the van looks creepy, it looks suspicious. Tell me about it. And I really challenge the students to think through it. And they're like, white van, 4 doors, dent over the rear left tire. Good, now we're getting somewhere. And those of you in law enforcement are smiling because you know how tired are you of getting the phone calls if that person looked creepy and you can't do anything about it. So, long story short, not only a week after that happened, I had a hit and run car accident crash into Qdoba on campus. Right? Boom, gone. And I'm the first one on scene and looking around. I'm asking dispatch if they have any video footage of it. And sure enough, one of the students from that class came up to me and they showed me their phone. There's your car. That this guy just crashed into it and took off. And I was like, no kidding. And you know that if you can actually tell your student, empower them with the skills that they need, which are in the book, which are simple to understand, and there's drills to practice, they can be part of the solution rather than being part of the problem. And for a small campus law enforcement agency like mine, of 50 armed officers, 100 people total, versus 11,000, I need all the help I can get. And you guys said it yesterday, the number one safety resource is you. It's all of that. And they understand that. So that was the message that I think we did it. And if you have a son or a daughter, cousin, anything that you know, and they're going to school, I would love for them to read it. I would love.
I had a chance to take Peter Harrell's class and help teach it. He talks about empathy. I taught the role of empathic listening. The fact that there is, it's an active tense. It's not passive to listen to somebody if you're doing it well. And people say, well, how do you come to this? Because you're in the radio business? I said, well, actually, it started way before that. When I was 16, I was water skiing in Miami with my dad on vacation, and I felt something pop in my lower back when I was 16, so I just figured it was just a pop. So I got back up and skied some more. And then laid down, after we were skiing by the pool, I noticed my legs were numb. So I flipped back over onto my back, and I realized the legs weren't numb. And I said, Dad, something isn't right. Well, a couple months later, I was scheduled for surgery for a rear then a frontal fusion 2 weeks apart. And I was too young and stupid to know how dangerous what I was about to undergo was. I just assumed the doctor said, well, we'll do this and then you'll be better. I said, okay, we'll do this, I'll be better. So they did the surgery, they did a fusion, they put rods in my back. And I spent a month in the hospital in a circle bed, because back then they didn't want you to twist to heal your back. Today they do the surgery and 3 hours later you're walking around, but not then. So I spent a month in a bed, and if I wanted to go from my front side to my back side, they put a second mattress on me and spun me 180 degrees. And this went on for a month. And then I spent the summer at home. Summer after my junior year of high school, all my friends were driving, going to prom, and doing all sorts of great things, and I was laying in a plaster coffin. And my grade point went up, and I got to drink all the beer I wanted because Mom wasn't going anywhere. But it was a pretty painful summer. But I learned that we live our lives in moments. And I had two nurses, Sue and Sharon. When I speak to healthcare people, especially the nurses, I say, you have no idea. It's like the second grade teacher. You do all this wonderful work, and you probably have no idea the impact you have. So I'm on a quest to try to find Sue and Sharon. I'm not sure how to do it. The last time I told the story, someone said, why don't you call a columnist in Chicago, tell them your story, and maybe they'll write a column. And if Sue and Sharon happen to still be in Chicago, maybe they'll contact you. Because I want to find Sue and Sharon and put my arms around them and hug them and stand next to them and say, see what you helped me do? My whole life changed because you stood there, held my hand, and said, this too shall pass. One of them was Polish. It was, this too shall pass, a dupa is an ass. It's like, what's this dupa yash? But what she said was, Ben, you can get through this a moment at a time. You can't go anywhere, so just sit here and breathe. And when I wanted to feel like I wasn't encumbered by the plaster cast, I closed my eyes that summer, lay as still as I could, and I just breathed. And I did it slowly enough, I wouldn't feel my lives in moments. When we break it down, the average lifespan is 80 years. It's 28,000 days, 4,000 weekends, and by my count, I'm about 1,200 Saturdays left. And if you try to recount 200 days in your life, maybe I could do that out of the 18,000 I've lived, but actually it's 20,000 now. I did the math the other day. But I can remember thousands of moments, right? And hundreds of thousands, if not millions of conversations with Michelle at home. And maybe half of that now with our daughter. And I can remember the moments. I don't remember the days. People ask me, if you have a favorite moment with your daughter. Well, she's just going off to college. Yes, and she was really into make-believe. One day we actually spent 8 hours acting out the first Harry Potter movie in costume. Started with breakfast. Mom was working that Saturday. So we had the whole house. We acted out the whole movie in costume, in character, in accents, bad British accents, in every room of the house. If I could get one day back in my life, that would be one of the top two. And when I think about it, though, I don't remember the whole day. I just remember certain moments and the look on her face. There's priceless. And that's how we all live our lives. That's how all of our interactions are, a moment at a time. So when we pass our stories on, when we teach people empathic listening, when we teach people how to explain what happened at Qdoba, or what happened at the scene of the crime, or what happened right before your husband seemed to have a stroke. It's that moment that people can remember and share with us that passes us into whatever steps we're taking to help them. And as I said, the practice of verbal defense was something I was doing without even knowing it. And I try to make sure I let people know when they've helped me or touched me, because there's so many people who don't know that. The Sue and the Sharons out there who know they help kids like me, but they haven't heard from me. And when I spoke in the nursing groups, I had nurses weep and say, you know, I'm so afraid I missed something. I'm so afraid I didn't do my job well. And I've had other nurses put their arms around them and hug them and say, you've done a great job. And the biggest sacrifice of the great job you've done is that you don't know how it turned out. And many more times than not, it turned out well. So when we can let people know that they're doing a good job, or at least listen to them talk about the job they've done so they can feel validated, we've done something very powerful. And I tell people that in the studies I've done with Native Americans up in the UP of Michigan, where we sit around the table with the Ojibwe fire chief. He spends the day talking to people who come from all over the world. You hear this guy's philosophies of life and a lot of the same links that we make here. And he says, remember the choice you have to do good every day. The Native American story is that inside each of us is a white and a dark wolf, and they do battle constantly. And when they tell the story to the children always want to know who wins the battle, because it's all about winning. And the answer always is the wolf you choose to feed, the energy you choose to focus in on, of the good that you do and others do, or the bad that you've done and others do. And you have that choice every day. That's a powerful choice. That's at the heart of the 5 maxims of the universal greeting, of the ability to connect. Yesterday I was on the treadmill looking outside, somebody walked by and kind of head down, looked up at me, and I just smiled at him. And he went from this to this. Moment. It was just a moment, all it was. But I could have chosen not to smile. I could have chosen not to wait. And for a moment, there was a connection. I don't know what was on the guy's mind, but he didn't look happy, and then he smiled. And we're told scientifically, when you smile, it makes a difference in your physiology versus if you don't. The fact that we all can do that, people here, people we haven't met yet, I think that's pretty powerful. Let's see where we are in time. Is that? Yeah. Can we get the mic passed around, because we'll gladly take questions for the next half hour, and then we've got a class. So if you pass the mic around, that would be great.
What do you like?
You don't need a mic, sir.
Well, it's not for you, it's for the others in the room.
Oh, okay. I'm starting to challenge the concept that there's nothing new under the sun. It says that all martial arts, no matter what it is, comes from 50 pictures on a wall in a cave in Africa. There's nothing new under the sun. And yet, I sit here this morning and I'm listening to two authors that are doing something different under the sun. You see, in our lifetime, we're going to have the disappearance of two things. And if we don't change it, some people say it's too late to change it, they're going to be gone. The first thing is coffee beans are going to disappear from the face of the earth. So the coffee you drink right now is going to be synthetic coffee. And right after that, chocolate is going to disappear. So if there's nothing new under the sun, does that mean we keep doing things the same way? Now, I have maybe a heads up. I've listened to Vince audiobook 4 times, and I was honored to be on the ground floor of Joe's book in the old iteration. And I read that more than 4 times. What I'm trying to say is that there are things new under the sun. And because we're doing things that are new, maybe, just maybe, we can change things in a positive way. I don't want to see coffee disappear. They say because it grows on a certain side of the mountain, under certain climate conditions, it's too late. I think your source on that is a guy named Mikako on CBS. And then chocolate's going to disappear. My point is that if we still keep doing things the same way, for instance, Jill points out, and I have a selfish viewpoint here, and I want to admit to it. No ulterior motive, but a selfish viewpoint. I have 4 granddaughters, 3 granddaughters that are going to go both. One's going to Russia with Baryshnikov in ballet, and the other 2 are going away to college. Now, I got books for them because I want them to know that there's something new under the sun. I promoted Ben's book because of the value of stories. And as I relinquish the floor, I want to say this again. I hope that you all continue to not only speak to people, I hope that those of you that are gifted with writing will write. God knows, I wish I could write like I speak. I cannot. It's a deficit. It's my fault. I can't even understand my own penmanship, which is why I take notes of it. But you have a difference. And these 2 people here took a chance. Ben said something, Ben said words that are so meaningful to me. One moment at a time. How are you going to use that moment? Because I'm going to say it again. And I'm done. It's up to you as to what you want to do with that place. I want to thank you, Ben, and I want to thank you, Jill, because your books are something new under the sun.
Thank you, Coach. I just would like to piggyback off of that for a second. When Katie asked me if I could write a book, you figured me, right? This was not on my bucket list. I always kind of was like, oh, yeah, I might do a leadership book someday. I love motivational quotes. I like short reads. I'm also kind of an in-betweener in those generations, so I like hot media, fast media, right? Huffington Post online, not the paper. I like the bullet points. It's a different type of format than most typical books. Cold media. Excuse me. One of the things that Katie told me was you can do it, and I did it. Al said, every single person, Al Oshleger said, every single person has a book inside them. Truly. And as Coach just pointed out, everyone does. So many of you in here are published authors, I do know that. And some of you may have been thinking about it. And I just read an article that said, just start it. I didn't think this was possible. And now that I look at it, there's moments that I read it and I'm like, okay, that section I can do better, I can do better, I can do better. That's my nature. But there's sections that I read and I'm like, that's awesome. That's phenomenal. And I put that in the hands of people and I know it is going to make a difference. And I just for a second would like to tell you a little bit about my world. Who in here works in campus law enforcement? Well, there's a few people. Anyone? Campus police, campus law enforcement, campus security? No one. All my Kalamazoo people are gone. Okay, so I'd just like to tell you a little bit about my day. I know all your days are probably just as bad, but we're gonna pretend it's the third week in August, right before college move-in. Every August, I get about 2,000 new students, brand new underagers, ready to go, right? I have 11,000 students on my campus. Every year I get that new class, and every year I have to retrain 2,000 people how not to go out, how not to, do you know that almost 2,000 students every year die from alcohol intoxication? Almost 2,000 every year. And then it's in addition to the 600,000 that are injured unintentionally from alcohol-related injuries on a college campus. Now, be a college police officer, right, campus police, or campus security, armed, not armed, depending, there's a wide gamut of campus policing out there, trying to combat that every year. They get there, they don't know. It's always F you, F the police, throwing beer bottles at squads. Just a few weekends ago, I had one shy right over my head, right after 9 years on, like, right off the balcony. Okay, thanks for that. You know, middle finger, whole thing. And the one thing I thought of was, what can we do to get ahead of this? I don't want to be reactionary every weekend. And that's what this is about. It's about getting ahead of it to try to combat that issue before they get there. I can't fix it after they're there. If they say that every year you're going to have over 100,000 sexual assault cases, right? If they say that 1 in 5 women will be the victim of sexual assault during the course of their college career, and it happens during the first 6 weeks of the school year, that's why we ramp up. That first 6 weeks, I'm not going to use the example of war because it's not war, it's not generally life or death, but psychologically for some people it could be. If you don't understand how to stop it before that happens, you will never combat the issue. So with that being said, I wrote that with the interest of preventing a lot of those crimes. Over thousands of crimes happen every single day on college campuses. Maybe you're aware of that, maybe you are not. One of the unique things about this book that I think is very timely, I've had a lot of people in here critique it. If you're interested, the last couple chapters specifically target active shooter or active killer situations, including mass casualty incidents, the knife incidents that are happening, what to do in the case that happens. And the last chapter is actually about police-youth interactions. So what to do if you do encounter the police, whether it's positive or negative, and how you can make that interaction better. Bill Singleton, who runs the STOP program in Milwaukee, they just went to the IACP conference. They won a couple awards out there for that program, collaborated on that chapter, and it's actually very timely. I wish when I was 16 or 17, I would have known how to handle a police interaction so that it would turn out better. Not that I got into any trouble, that it could have possibly turned out better than it did. So, thank you.
To segue from that, you know, we wonder about the power of our words. And I had a student I was teaching Marquette, and the good fortune to teach a couple of classes. And one of the students said to me at the end of the term, and this is what the idea that we have a book in this, at least we have some advice in this that's worth sharing. He said, you know, I learned as much about life as I did about journalism in your class. And I'm about to graduate, and I wondered if you would put together sort of a compendium of some of the life advice you shared over the course of the semester, because I want to take it with me. You've helped me see how exciting it can be to be here and the difference I can make in this world. Because a lot of the mantra that I talk about with you here today, I use in my teaching. So I wrote him this list in a letter, and then I thought, you know, this would be a column too. So I have a column with me, right? So I sent it to the Journal Sentinel in Milwaukee and asked them to publish it. And the advice that I offered, and then that became part of the chapter of the book. So you never know when you take the time to put your words down, how to do it. And Coach, what I would advocate you do is just turn that recording button on your computer and go through the 10 chapters you have in you, and you take the transcript and edit it, and you will have a book. And you'll have it faster than you ever read. So the advice that I gave Haji and I share with others and to you is don't rush. And remember, your life is a marathon, it's not a sprint. Be kind to everyone, because those who deserve it are those who learn how to be better based on the example that you set for them. Don't ignore your gut, because when it strongly directs you, you need to learn to trust that. It may be trite and cliche, but it's true, everything in moderation. And then I add, except maybe for the passions involved in life, and those you should do a little bit more. Work hard, play harder, and allow yourself to be still and ponder on a regular basis. Look backwards, but only as a learning tool, because too much of it strains your neck. Nothing lasts, so cherish what you care about while it is in front of you. This is one of the most important lessons I taught my daughter. I would say it over and over again, so when I published a column, I wrote it 3 times. People are more important than things. Be most patient with your loved ones, who will try your patience more than anyone else you know. Children grow up relatively quickly, so when you're given a choice, spend time with the kids over everything else and everyone else. All things being equal, you'll have time for other things when your kids have grown up. Only her health for granted. Only hypochondriac worries about a little ache and pain. As you age, your strength may weaken, but your health doesn't have to. Do all you can to die healthy, because it's possible. And finally, and I think it goes on with what Coach you were saying about what's still under the sun and how do we learn. Formal education for many of us ends at some point and begins and ends again. Throughout your life, learning is a daily experience. So keep going with that. Those are the 12 points. Because I don't, again, I love speaking and do it forever, but I also like to make sure you're heard. So, Coach, is anyone else on comment? Who passed the microphone? Thank you. But you don't need it.
Actually, it's a comment, I presume. My name is Paul Callaghan, I'm a martial arts instructor, an insurance professional, and a pediatric instructor. You talk about moments. Anyone ever had an aha moment? A light bulb goes on? I had an aha moment. Who's heard Jack Oglesby or read his book? Everyone in the room is safer because I'm here. We all can say that. I heard what you said. I heard what Coach said. I watched Coach and I watched Dave Young in action the other night when we walked across the street and had dinner at Qdoba. Everyone in the room feels better because I'm here. Not just safer, they feel better. Dave talked to the young lady who was serving us at Qdoba. What's your name? Hi, it's nice to meet you. My name's Dave. So can you tell me what this is? Oh, okay, I'm gonna have this. You might put a little this on there, a little this on there. Maybe a smile on her face. She felt better because someone was acknowledging what she was doing. Coach talked about the young man putting the carts in the parking lot. Coach said, thank you for doing that. Without you, this parking lot would shut down. First person who ever thanked that young man. So there's the moments. So from this point on, not only will everyone in the room be safer because I'm there, they're going to feel better because I'm there. Thank you for that aha moment and that life changer. I appreciate it.
True, very true. Someone else? A lot of what I book has to do with my dad. Didn't plan it that way, but it just sort of happened. And I hope you'd appreciate me sharing the story. He passed, but my dad got into boating. And I guess this is, bystander mobilization doesn't always work, but it's better to be active and try, even when it doesn't work out. So Dad gets involved with boating and becomes an expert of all things Lake Michigan. And his apartment overlooks Lake Michigan. And when in a terrible storm, he sees a light out in the lake and decides he's going to call the Coast Guard, because even though there's 16-footers out there, he's going to send them out to save that boat that's in distress. So he calls the Coast Guard and he says, this is Robert Marin's Whiskey 6365, which was the letter and number on the side of his boat. very impressed he remembered it. I don't know why. Of all the information I forget in my life, I remember that too. And he says, you've got to get out on the lake right now. There is a boat in distress. I'm like, Mr. Barrett, are you sure? This is not a night anybody would be out on the lake. Because I'm watching them with my binoculars right now. I can see the light, and you've got to get out there. So they rush out there. They call him back and say, Mr. Barrett, we're pretty much spot on where you told us to go. There's nothing out here. He goes, how can you say that? You're right next to it. I see your boat, and I see the boat next to you. Can't you see those people? I see them. The guy pauses. Excuse me, Mr. Marins, but I regret to inform you, you just saved the 68th Street water filtration plant. They invited him not to call back ever again. But his idea was that he was going to be helpful. Over the years, he towed boats in when they broke down. One of the stories actually I remembered after we wrote the book, and it left a big impact on me, was that my folks divorced when I was a kid, and I grew up in the suburbs in Chicago, so it was pretty quiet, sort of like Mayberry. And every weekend I'd get thrust into the city and scared to death. Sirens all night long because we were by a couple of hospitals and lots of people. And I always feared what would happen if I didn't get to go back home, because the city seemed pretty scary to me. But one day we were driving down Clark Street, a busy street north side of Chicago. My dad pulled over and got out, which scared me too, because I thought, well, where's he going? I'm in the car alone. He had gone to the lane and couldn't see. And he offered to drive the man wherever he needed to go so the man didn't have to wait for the bus. And I don't think I ever spoke to him about it, as the impact it made on a young boy, that his dad would just go up to a complete stranger and offer to help him because the guy obviously could use the help. On the bus, I guess, but my dad thought, well, I could help him out. And these little things that we do, the messages, all these years later, that was 50 years ago. And I can see it as if it was yesterday. So we realize, when we are training, when we're teaching, when we're raising our kids, when we're acting in our communities, those little things we do are noticed. And with all the cameras, they're noticed more now than ever before, because somebody's got us on video somewhere. You behave, used to be, ethics are about how do you behave when no one's watching. And, now ethics are, do you live up to the standards you have because somebody's always watching? That's sort of an important lesson, You will be remembered for the things that you do. I guess I'll leave you with this thought, that it really isn't about how much money you accumulate in the course of your life and the title you have, whether you think being a Bono or Michael Jordan or Oprah Winfrey, a president of the United States, hundreds of years from now really doesn't mean all that much. What means a lot is what you do every day, the people you interact with, how you comport yourself, who you help out, who you choose not to help out. That our mark is left in this world every day by what we do. It's not about you're building up a resume to get the kingdom of heaven. You may get there, but what we know for sure is what we're doing here makes a difference. How you choose to live your life, and in my mind, how you choose to say, yeah, I'll be late, but this person wants to tell me that story, and that's more important than making sure that I get to this place exactly on time. So I can't speak to a group without, especially about a book called People Are Dying to Be Heard, without saying the reason I wrote this book is I don't know anybody who's dying to be heard more than me, which is why I'm always listening to my next audience. So I greatly thank you for listening to me throughout the weekend and certainly this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Good morning. All right, we're in the home stretch. Are you ready? Yeah. All right, just a couple of announcements here this morning. Ben and Jill will actually be moving out into the lobby area here, and will be available. Their books will be available for purchase, and then they will also be available to sign the books if you're interested in doing that, and also available to talk a little bit more one-on-one if that's something that you're interested in doing this morning. Of course, we have some room changes because that's the theme of the weekend. So I appreciate everybody's flexibility with us. So if you look at your agenda, the proxemics for professionals with Gary and Dave, that is good. That's where it says it's going to be. And then the same is true for social contracts for peace, which will actually Angela Weisensell, that is also in the room that is listed on that agenda. The change this morning is that the presentation that was on the agenda yesterday with John Neville and Andrew Garrison will actually be in Gulfstream Hialeah, and that will be repeated twice. Unfortunately, with Kathy Mangold and Dr. Cesar's schedules, we were unable to make that panel discussion work. So with other things, we're moving that breakout from yesterday, which was entitled The Unjaded Practitioner. That will be offered twice this morning, repeated in Gulfstream Hialeah. So as always, I'm available for questions, and thank you so much for being here. Lunch will be in here again as it has been the last couple of days, and we'll see you then. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
All right, folks. I hope you enjoyed it so far. We're going to be sitting down here for a moment. Classroom will get up and running again for this presentation. We're going to be sitting in on proxemics for professionals with Gary and Dave Jones.